Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. We're so happy to be here this morning with you. My name is Leslie Montgomery, and you are listening to LKM Kingdom Living Leslie's Lessons Learned. And we're here this morning to continue to talk to you about forgiveness. But before we do, we got to look in the mirror. Yeah, I'm looking in the mirror. And sometimes our thoughts can make us see something different than what's really there. Sometimes we can look in the mirror and be downtrodden, and all we see is negativity. We don't see who we really are. But I want to encourage you today, if you haven't looked in the mirror yet, if you're sitting on the side of your bed and you're saying, is life worth living? I want you to know it is worth living. Now, there's something that I wanted to, let me see if I want to read this. It says, forget yesterday. It's already forgotten you. It's already forgotten you. Don't sweat tomorrow. You haven't even met it. Instead, open your eyes and heart to the truly precious gift of today. Life is a gift. It is precious and priceless. Appreciate and treasure every moment and acknowledge the giver. How about that? Acknowledge the giver, the one that has given you life. Um, get up every morning knowing that Yahweh gave you everything to fulfill your destiny. Sometimes we will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And I want to say to you today that if you take your life today, you'll never experience that memory. You'll never experience that part of life that is so vibrant and is waiting for you. When you wake up in the morning, life is waiting for you. And you could either take it as good or you could take it as bad. I want to say good morning to everybody, but I also want to say choose you today to accept life as something good. We can wake up every morning and it could be something happen, something going on that can make you have a negative thought about the day. But I want to encourage you today that your day is your choice. So what you choose for it to be, that's what it'll be. I was thinking, and I say this now. I say I'm not afraid of myself. And to somebody that'll be like, what? Yeah. When I wouldn't go forth, and when I went and do the things that I needed to do because I was afraid of what somebody would say or think, I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of putting myself out there because of what someone else would say. And I want to encourage you today. Don't be afraid of yourself. Don't be afraid of your circumstances. We all have gone through something. Some things it seemed like it was the end of the world. But I promise you, you can make it. I want you to hold your head up. Keep your head high and remember that today is a gift. Don't worry about tomorrow. And yesterday is already gone. So I want to play this little clip, but I just want you to know that if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you are anxious, you're living in the future. And if you are at peace, you are living in the present. Today is a gift that has been assigned to you. So let's just take a moment and listen to this as we continue on our journey. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear it. Let me know if you don't.
Talk forgiveness and faith, right?
Yes.
Now you talk
Everybody
about that.
love.
You
Yeah.
talk about that a lot in the book, and that's very difficult for most people to
Yes.
forgive, and especially with something like that, you kind of lose a little bit of faith at first.
Oh.
So
100%.
how did you get that faith back, if you ever got it back? And let's talk about forgiveness.
Yes. Good question. So my faith in that moment, it's interesting. When it happened, I walked back to my car. My Ted and my father left the hospital separately. I had my own car. And immediately, my grandmother always, the first scripture that came to me, I am strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. I am strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. I just kept saying it over and over and over again. And then then I was like, wait a minute. No, actually, no. Like, I'm not strong in the Lord. Like, where is everybody? Like, where was anybody for my mom? You definitely go there. And then, and then in the book, I write TD Jakes. I mean, it's a true story. I literally walked up in my room and I fell to my knees like, God, this is not happening. And the phone rang, and it's no caller ID. And I'm thinking, hold on. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know if it was a detective or somebody. And he said, is this Nicole? And I said, yes. He said, this is Bishop TD Jakes. I said, oh my God, well, I just fell to my knees. He goes, how are you holding up? I go, I just fell down to my knees. He goes, well, then good. We're going to pray.
That's right.
And he did his thing. Mm-hmm. And then he said, tell me why you're angry. What you're angry about. I go, well, obviously what I'm angry about. I'm angry that someone did this. I'm angry about this. I'm disappointed. And he said, okay, now, are we going to give this moment of 5 minutes? Are we gonna focus on your mom's 81 years of her life and what she gave and what she did? Or are we going to give this fool 5 minutes? Where are you going to go? Because if you don't turn your mind quickly, this is going to be a disaster. And I said, I want to focus on the 81 years. And then the forgiveness part was the hardest because, forgiveness is a hard word and it's a tricky word. And I think a lot of people say, I could never forgive that, because I've said that too, which means I could never condone that. But forgiveness isn't condonement. It's never, ever, ever condoning a bad behavior, ever. I forgave so that I could have peace in my heart. I forgave for myself. I didn't care about this person. I didn't care about his name. I didn't care about his past. I didn't care. I was like, I'm not giving him if any space in my brain or my heart, because I don't have a bitter heart. I never had a bitter heart. But if you don't forgive, you will have a bitter heart. And again, to anyone who's listening, it is not about even reconciliation. I've forgiven people in my past, like friends who have hurt me. I never reconciled with them. I just forgave them. That was it. It was like, I don't want to carry any weight in my body or carry the poison of unforgiveness, because it's not going to bring my mom back.
That's right.
It's not going to bring Jackie back.
Now, I want to talk forgiveness and faith, right?
Yes.
So I thought that was so powerful. Nikki sent that to me, and I was like, okay, Nikki, you're sending me this because you want me to play this. And when she sent it to me, that was so powerful to me. And I think that that's a area that we need to really dive into. Somebody took her mother out, killed her mother. If anybody know about the Godfather of New York, he just died. Can't remember his name, but he was a very influential person all over the world, not just in New York. Behind the scenes, he worked, and a lot of these celebrities and things that's out there is because of him. His wife was beautiful. His wife was her own person. She did many speaking engagements. She was all over the world as well. If I pulled up her picture, everybody would like, oh, yeah. But to know that somebody came into your mother's house and killed her, and then be able to say, I forgive them. To be able to say, I've had friends that I've forgiven that I never spoke to you. To be able to say, what did she say? That when Bishop Jakes talked to her, he says, okay, what part are we going to lie in? That's what I'm going to say. Which part are we going to lie in? We're going to lie on the part, not like lying. I hope I'm saying it right. Like lying and wallowing in. That's a better word. Are we going to wallow in the fact that she was murdered? Or are we going to wallow in the fact that she had 83 beautiful years? That is powerful. That is so powerful. Now think about it. For T.D. Jakes to call her, somebody had some clout. Somebody had some clout. So when I saw that, I said I wanted to play it, and I couldn't find it this morning. I was like, Nikki, do you have it? And she was like, it's on Instagram. I said, I'm looking for it. And I was like, calm down. You You'll get it. And she resent it to me. But that's something I'm going to revisit again because it was so many powerful things that was said in that. And to be adult enough, because it takes an adult to be able to say, I'm not going to, I'm not going to, I'm, I'm, I don't know what you're saying, Alfreda. I'm trying to read your question. It's not connecting with me. But it takes a mature person to say, I'm not going to wallow in the fact that somebody came into my house and took my mother. And whoever that person was, I forgive them because I'm not going to spend my life in pain over something I could not control. So my beautiful guest Nikki is here today, and my beautiful sister Wanda. I'm gonna be nice today. All studious looking and stuff going on over there. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here with me. I want to say good morning to everybody that's listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I ask that you would hit the like sign, you would subscribe so that when we do go live, you'll get the notification and share it because it's a powerful conversation. And we have been in forgiveness for a while now, but it has been so many different aspects of forgiveness, things we don't even think about that has come up and made you say, I need to revisit that. So our guest today is Nikki Howard, and she's going to continue to talk to us about her journey. But before she does, I'm going to ask Wanda to introduce herself as always in her beautiful pink. And yeah, talk
Thank,
to us, Wanda.
thank you, Miss Leslie. Good morning, everybody. Such a beautiful morning it is this day. I am Wanda Floyd. I am the CEO of WLF Academy and the Brains and Beauty Business Academy, where we do business better. I am an author of a book, a hair care journal, which is called um, Me, My Hair, Me, My Hair, and I. It's a beautiful hair journal to help you along with your hair care regimen. I am the mother of 8. I do some things in ministry, and I'm just happy to be here. So happy to be here, and can't wait to listen to our beautiful guest, Miss Nikki.
So, Nikki, I had you on during the week. What was it, last month or something? Might have been 2 months ago. I don't know. And
Mhm.
we talked about human design, which is another part that we're connected to, and that is such a powerful piece of yours. And I know we're not here to talk about it, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And Nikki, tell us a little bit about you. Where you from? Where you from? What's going on with Nikki?
So, of course, name is Nikki Howard. When people ask, like, who are you? I'm like, I'm just a girl from Harlem. So, born and raised, born and raised in Harlem, New York.
Hey, I'm Brooklyn.
um, I'm a mom to a full-grown adult. I'm a grandma to 7-year-old. My grandson is 7, and by trade, my day job, I'm a paralegal in media and entertainment industry. Um,
So you want to repeat that again?
what, that I'm a paralegal?
Uh-huh. And what industry? You said that kind of fast.
Oh,
Go ahead.
media for television and broadcasting.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Okay.
And so on the side, I have a company called Flow Life Solutions, which in the beginning it was kind of just something I created as my own personal creative hub because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it started out in photography, but one of my passions is personal development, spiritual growth, and self-discovery. I really made that the main focus of what I do because I just like authenticity and growth are two of my core values.
Yeah.
And so I love, personal development growth, spiritual growth, and all of that. And that's, it's just such a core of who I am and what I do and the things that I talk about with people. And so that human design piece is, one of the tools that I use to just really help people, to help myself first is how it started, helping people to discover really the truth of who you are, how you're wired, and how God truly designed you so that you can become to accept yourself more, become very comfortable with who you are, and then really learning the deeper areas of your growth. Like, what are the things that keep blocking you from certain things, and how you begin to work with that to overcome them.
Yeah. And Nikki loves nature,
I do.
but Nikki is also a photographer. Um, so I just want to kind of throw that out there. You know,
Thank
when
you.
people come on, they like to just sugarcoat some things or just gloss over some things, but she is really amazing, and I can't wait to see the finished product. Might not see the finished product, but just to see her even blossom more. So thank you, Nikki, for being here. And we've been talking about forgiveness, and you have an interesting story on forgiveness, your journey. And I can't tell your journey like you can tell it. So we want to hear your journey with forgiveness and where it started, what transpired that journey had to happen.
Okay, so let me see, where do I start? So I have a few areas where forgiveness really played a key role. So I have forgiveness for my parents. I had forgiveness as a parent, forgiveness in friendship, and then forgiveness in relationships. So with my parents, the quick background story is my parents were teenagers when I was born. My mom was 17. My dad was 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So growing up, there were years where like an 8-year period of my life, from the time I was 8 to the point where I was 15, where my father was in prison. And then as a teenager, I had issues at home with my mom. So the first point of forgiveness, I remember when I was in my 20s, I had started going to church. And when I started going to church, I just, like, that was the first time I remember it coming up. And the relationship I had with my mother at the time was really kind of strange. Like, honestly, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I got pregnant at 17. When I had my daughter, me and my mother we weren't even speaking. We weren't on speaking terms. But we did begin, talking. And then one day I just called her and I was just like, I forgive you. But that was kind of like just the first layer, because it felt like what I was learning in church and what I should do. But it definitely opened up a door for us to begin healing our relationship. Now, mind you, at this point, I didn't know terms like healing and all of that stuff, but it opened up a door for us to at least, begin engaging and just having what I considered at the time, at least a normal mother and daughter relationship. The forgiveness. So recently this was probably like a year ago. Me and my mother had a little, not an altercation, but something out during like Thanksgiving or something. And the talks that we had after that, she was like, I feel like you still haven't forgiven me for some things. She said, because I remember you called and you told me you forgave me. I said, yeah, and I do. I said, but as I get older and I'm like, I go to therapy and you go back and listen, you recall some things and you start to dissect your own journey. I said, as I start to dissect my own journey, more questions come up. So I said, so there definitely are layers to things. So if I come to you with a question about certain things, it's not to attack you, it's not to continue blaming you. It's just that in order for me to do my own processing, and you're still here, I would like to just ask the questions. This is not about trying to condemn you, but what it opened the door up to is now her going through her process that she wants to go through or needs to go through for her own self-forgiveness. Because I feel like sometimes she, condemned herself for some of the things in the past. And it's still a process. Like you could say in your mind, well, I wasn't in my right mind at that time, but that work in the process of doing that, you just really have to go through it. So that so that you can have that conversation, And so on the flip side of that, as a parent, and I even explained this to my mother, I said, I did my forgiveness work with my daughter earlier than what has taken place, with me and my mother. And so when my daughter, and it doesn't happen often because the forgiveness happened quickly with my daughter. It happened so quick that I couldn't even believe it. Like I was like, is it that easy, guy? Is it that fast? But so this was later, probably more like in my 30s. When I went back and talked to my daughter, so the issues that I experienced as a child and a teenager kind of made me, I guess wasn't aware of it at a time, but made me bitter because in my parenting, I used to be really cold and kind of mean, very cold-hearted, very mean. And I did not realize how it was affecting her. So as I began getting my life together, I joined and was in a different church. I started getting my life together. I turned back to my daughter and, started trying to fix things and open that door. And it took a little while. I was seeing her going in a direction instead of just constantly chasing behind her. The direction that I heard from God was like, focus on you. But my daughter was 17 at the time, and I really didn't feel like I had enough time. I was like, it's going to take one thing and I'm going to lose her, But I just said, focus on you. And the more that I began to focus on me, her heart slowly turned back toward me. And I was ever so grateful. And I remember one Mother's Day, we were at service and she had came to church and it was a great service. And I don't know, I can't remember what he talked about, but I just knew when we came outside the church, I just grabbed her and hugged her. And I was like, I'm just so thankful you still even speak to me.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm so grateful that you even speak to me. And so I'm always very, just very grateful for the turnaround that God did in all of our lives. And so I use this as an example. I live in a very, in terms of size, my house is not very big. There was a point where me, my mother, and my daughter were both living here in this house under the same roof. And I could not believe it. I was like, we were in this house. There wasn't a lot of friction. And even when we had, when something would go on, we would go right in that living room and sit on the couch and have a family discussion. And so knowing the history, knowing that, and this is kind of embarrassing to say, but my relationship with my mother back in the day used to get physical. You know what I'm saying? It used to get physical.
Wow.
There was a moment with me and my daughter where it got physical. And so to look at that moment and was like, we are all three under the same roof.
We're not doing that.
And we don't act like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you said something about you was harsh. Was your mom harsh to you?
um Not, I mean, kind of like the thing with it was a different kind of harshness. My harshness was no, in that
Anger.
term,
Yours was anger.
it was anger. And it was because I was in my own kind of like on my own depression. So and then but what I learned about myself later on is that I didn't know that I was an introvert. I didn't know that I need that alone time. But I was doing that in my mind, but didn't realize I was shutting my daughter out. I was shutting her out, and I didn't know how to create balance and things like that at that time.
Now that's a good point, because that a lot of people, because they don't know who they are and why they do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back, you saw that it was part of your characteristics, and you responded from that, not knowing that the way you were responding was not healthy, because now it's not just you, but it's another little person. Well, I'm saying little person
Mm-hmm.
that's in your life as well. So how you used to handle things, you can no longer handle them that way.
Right.
So now you're building a broken relationship with your daughter, and you're getting the same response that you and your mother got. You
Right.
know,
So yeah, and so the point that I was going to make with that story was that I was explaining to my mother that whenever my daughter comes to me with something if something comes up and she's like, hey, she called me one day. She was like, I thought about something. I can't remember what it was, but she thought about something and she was having a moment. And to me, I was like, we passed this. Like, you have to know that that's not how I feel, But I let her have the floor. I said, no, you get to have the floor because you need to deal with whatever it is that you're feeling at this moment. You need to be able to deal with it. But I hope you have to know that's not where we are, And so, and I've said this to other parents before, because I feel like with parenting, sometimes we like to say, I guess because we have reasons and we have excuses for some of the things that we did. We were only doing our best that we knew to do at the time, but don't pay attention to the effect that it might have had on the child for whatever way that looks like. And one of the important things that I learned in church was to pray for crop failure. So when we see a certain behavior in the child, understanding that everything grows from a seed planted. So before you turned good, you were whatever you were before. So before you started doing the right thing, you were doing the wrong thing. And we expect those seeds not to produce fruit. So, and I learned this actually in both churches, that the seed is going to produce whatever, it's going to produce weeds, but you have to pray for crop failure, that it doesn't extend the negativity or whatever. And so one of the leaders at the church, she was talking about something she saw in her daughter, and her husband was trying to check it, and she said, nope, hold up, I did that. I know what that's from. I did that.
wow.
So seeing it for what it was, but then correcting it and dealing with it at that level instead of looking at, oh, the child is just bad.
Right. And that's true, because one of the things is that when we come to earth, we don't come to, how can I put it? Everything we need, we have when we come to earth. We come in as babies, we're innocent. And as we grow, what did David say? I was shaped in iniquity, and in I in my mother's womb. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm getting it mixed up right now, but
Born in sin and shaping
shaped
iniquity.
in iniquity. And when you think about that, it's a real statement, because when you come into this world is a simple place, you know, and the world has shaped us. A lot of things we do is because that's what we saw the world do. And you said that the lady said that she told her husband, "This is something I did." There's a lot of time we see that, like you said, and we turn an eye to it. And there's a lot of things that you did when you was a young child that you see them do,
Mm,
and you're like amazed, like, oh my God. But it 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 all transpires from somewhere. There's a root of it from somewhere. And like you
mhm,
said, you saw the root, and because you saw the root, you was able to counteract it. A lot of people never get to that opportunity because they don't understand, and they don't say, no, that came from me, or that's me. Like you said, they say that child is bad. It's not that children are bad. Children are seeking something just like adults. And the way they respond might not always be positive.
mhm.
And that doesn't mean that they might not need extra help. It doesn't mean that they don't need a counselor. But what it means is that we got to recognize and stop saying that all children are bad. Stop saying that children are just ruthless. No, no, no. There is a issue. And if we never address the issue, the problem never goes away. So that little issue when there was a little person becomes a big issue because now they're a big person. And they're in a place where they still don't understand what's going on. And it's just like they're in a straitjacket trying to get out.
Mm.
And until we get into a place that we understand that, and yes, a lot of things they go through, we do create it because we don't know how to be parents. We don't know how to deal with our own stuff because we never dealt with it. Our parents never dealt with it with us. Now, there's some parents I hear some people always talk about how their parent just taught them everything and their parents so amazing. There's some parents that got it together enough to know that, but on a whole, that's not the case.
Mhm.
So we create these situations a lot of time in our children's lives, but we don't understand or realize this because of us. So
Right.
here we have a pattern of something that has carried on because of something we seen our parents do or didn't do. So I don't know if I'm making sense but we need to understand that children on a whole are not bad. Now there's some bad seeds out there. I ain't gonna say they ain't, but on a whole, even at that, it came from something. It came from somewhere, and we cannot let them go because of their reactions. We need to find out what it is so that we can help them maneuver through life healthy. Wanda, you wanted to say something. I see you. To be healthy in the fact that their life is just as important as ours.
There
We
was
do things. Go
a
ahead.
there was a so I took the turn in my parenting journey my journey with my daughter. I took a parenting class when she was 13, and there was a phrase they use in this parenting book. It was called meeting the need behind the deed.
Needing the needs behind what?
Meeting the need behind the deed.
Mm.
So meeting the need behind whatever the behavior is. whatever the behavior is. Yeah.
I thought you was gonna say something about
Oh
it.
no, I was just that just when you were saying what you were saying, it reminded me of that quote. So
Yeah. So, Wanda, go ahead.
No, that's good. Meeting the need behind the deed. Uh, Oftentimes, when children are acting out or they're displaying some type of behavior,
Hey,
we just look at the act and what they're doing,
yes.
and we never go back to or think about the root of that thing and what it's really behind. And I love when you said crop failure, because that is the second person I've heard say that since that term became familiar
Really?
with us. Yeah, because our apostle always talks about you need to pray for crop failure.
Yeah.
And even before he said that, when I remember praying, realizing, have you ever pulled up some weeds
Hmm.
and but I pulled these weeds up and it begins to grow again? And you're like, but I pulled it up. I literally saw the weeds, the stems, the roots. And that's because deep down there's still seeds there.
That's right.
Right. And so I remember praying, saying, pull it up from the root, but then dig deep down, Yahweh, and pull out the seeds so it won't grow again.
Yeah.
And then we became familiar with the term crop failure and understanding that we live in a voice activated kingdom, and we put a lot of negative things in the air, in the atmosphere that we've spoken out of our own lives, all out of our own mouths. We
That's right.
ask for crop failure. And that even deals with our children, people around us, and what we said over them. Even saying that, you just like your daddy.
Okay, now that's a whole nother subject right there, but go ahead with it.
You just like your daddy. You ain't never gonna be nothing. I remember my dad telling my brother she'll never be anything. You know, the words that are spoken, and then we wonder why. Why you acting so crazy? Why you just dumb. That was stupid. Why did you do that?
Yeah. All those hurtful words,
All of those hurtful,
damaging words.
damaging seeds that we are just planting in the earth. And then we wonder why they're acting the way they're acting. And never thinking, like Miss Nikki said, that it stems from something. And most of the time, it is from what we have caused.
Yeah.
It's not what we said, it's what we've done because of what we've gone through. So this has been, yeah, it's so powerful. And then even Miss Nikki realizing that, like you said, you started your forgiveness journey with your daughter early, you know, because of the process you were going through with your mother. And I like the fact that you said the forgiveness is a process. It's a process. And even you saw that it was a process. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you go ahead, Nikki. But one of the things that Alicia tells us is that when she said we can cry insanity,
You didn't
on
say that.
something, insanity on some things. So, it's very true, and we can't blame ourselves. We have to fix ourselves. It's a bad thing to know that you have done something damaging and you carry it through life and never deal with it, or never give it over to Yahweh and say, forgive me, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You know, there's a lot of parents out there that is broken because of something they did, and they see their children's effects of it, and not knowing that they can't carry it, they got to release it. all there's so many compartments, and that part about the what we say, we will revisit that. We will have more conversation about that, because that's a very important thing right there. that we need to tap into is that our words either bring life or death. And that's to our children as well as our own lives and our environment. It just covers so many different areas, and it's vitally important that we understand that we got to tackle that. We got to live. And in order to live, we've got to let go of some things, and we've got to get into the word. We've got to understand the word. We got to abide by the word. You know, we have lived this walk as Christians for so long, and our self-righteous selves, and we don't deal with issues and things. We just keep dancing over them, shouting over them, praying over them, and it causes casualties along the way, and we have to deal with them. So I'm not trying to take up too much of your time, Nikki, but I want you to go ahead.
No, I agree. I was just sitting here as you were talking. I'm like, it's a balancing act, because it's a balancing act between taking accountability.
Accountability, that's another one.
Taking accountability, but also at the same time, not going into the whole self-condemnation thing or feeling continuously blaming yourself. So it's accountability, but setting yourself free, letting it go at the same time, and so that can be kind of hard to
Yeah, because you're coming face to face with yourself and your issue.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come face to face with yourself and your issues, you got to be big enough. I'm gonna say big enough to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be big enough to say, I made the mistake and I'm sorry, and not hold it, but let it go.
Right.
You got to free yourself.
Right.
We got a lot of parents out here that's not free, going to church every day, reading the word, but not free.
They're not free. They only believe what they're reading.
Right.
We just go out of repetition. We
Exactly.
go out of tradition.
Exactly.
And you're right. You can't stay there. Condemnation. That's why he said there's therefore no condemnation, because the enemy of your soul will want you to stay there. Once you recognize it, he'd want you to stay there. And as you said, Ms. Leslie, wallow in that. No, you need to recognize it, unpack it, deal with it, repent, forgive, and move on. That's all you can do. And let Yahweh deal with the rest. Never let that condemn you where you're at a place where you can't forgive yourself. And I remember that was one of the first things we talked about a few weeks ago, is forgiving yourself. He allowed you to recognize it for a reason, so you can deal with it, so you can repent of it. He's forgiving you. Now we have to forgive ourselves, and that's so important.
It is important. It's important for us. You know what? There's something else I want to say, but that unforgiveness is like a web. You ever watch a spider build a web? It takes an insect. That insect gets caught up in that web and can't get out. Unforgiveness is a web. Now you can get out of that unforgiveness, or you can choose to stay in that unforgiveness. And the longer you stay in it, the harder it is to come out. And it's just like that insect. And you can see that insect fighting, trying to get out of that web. Some of them do, and some of them don't. And I want to encourage you today to get out of that web, get out of that that thing that's bounding you, that's holding you, because of what we're talking about today, things that you might have done as a parent, and you've caused some harm to your child. And we can't listen. This is the thing I want to say. You're not the only one. Never allow the enemy to make you so embarrassed because you think you're the only one that you can't get out. The Father promised us that if we come to him, It goes to the sea of forgetfulness. Why are we still holding on to something that we repented for and he's forgotten it, but you're still holding on to it? Why? You got to forgive yourself and let it go. There's nothing we can do about the past, but we can change right where we are, our present, going into our future so that it can be healthy. We got too many of us walking around unhealthy with all these issues that's never been dealt with. And sometimes people are afraid to even deal with them because they don't know what the outcome is going to be. But you got to deal with it. You got to come through it. You got to come out of it.
The conversation has to take place. It has to take place. Something Miss Nikki said, and I wrote it down: forgiveness has restorative power.
And that's so powerful.
It has restorative power. Miss Nikki had the conversation with her mother. And like she said, point where when she was pregnant, that her and her mother weren't even speaking. And because the forgiveness began to take place, a relationship began to build where all three were in the home together and they used to sit on the couch and talk.
That's powerful.
It has restorative power.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about when you talked about that insect and the spider web. If you notice, once that insect is trapped, then the spider begins to weave another web.
Yes.
Around the insect to trap them in.
That's right.
So you're not getting loose now.
Oh, wow.
And unforgiveness has the same
effect.
The more you don't deal with it, the more you ignore it, the more you look at other people and what they did, and I don't need to forgive, they need to come and repent and to me. The more you don't deal with it, the more you come each week and sit and listen, but you still don't deal with the unforgiveness in your life, the more that web is being wrapped around you, and pretty soon you will be trapped. We have to deal with it.
So, and then I'm getting ready to let you go, Nikki.
Okay.
What happens after that? Your body begins to respond to the not letting go, or you can't get out. You're stuck, and your body begins to respond. Okay, go, Miss Nikki.
Listen, it's all good. Like all of that is good because they all tie into like some of the notes that I had, was jotting down. So the addressing it, right, is important because now that once you deal with it yourself, there's really nothing that nobody cannot come and say to you. Once you deal with it. So when my daughter comes to me, I'm not offended. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm just like, okay, because I know exactly what you're talking about,
Like
so,
freedom. It's like freedom.
And
yeah,
so
that's what I'm going to say.
Conversation. And so to tie back to the journey, that is one of the reasons why my forgiveness journey with my father has taken a longer time, because there was a level of accountability that he was not taking. He always had a reason or an excuse. So the short story is, my father had a very long-term drug addiction. And so it took me a long time because I didn't want to accept what he would always say, my addiction is a disease, my addiction is a disease. And I couldn't grasp it. I didn't understand it, and I didn't want to because I'm like, but I'm your child. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, the addiction is a disease felt like an excuse to me. And to me, I just kept feeling like I kept getting excuses for his behavior. And you know, sometimes like someone in my family said, well, you forgave your mother. Why is it taking you so long to forgive your father? I said, because my mother didn't deny anything. You know, she didn't deny anything. I mean, and her stuff was, was drug related as well earlier on. I said, but he won't admit nothing. Like everything is somebody else's fault. Well, your mother left me and I did this and she wouldn't, or it was always some other excuse in the fold. And I'm saying sometimes you just have to acknowledge. I'm not even saying that the things that happened to you didn't cause you pain or whatever, but you still have to acknowledge how your actions and your behaviors, what effect it had on me. We still trying to mend your wound and, pacify your wounds, but I'm the child. You know what I'm saying? And I just need you to acknowledge it. And so that journey took longer. And to be honest, I was good with it because we were full adults. I'm like in my 40s, and he finally got out of, prison the second time. And we tried to get, we thought we were going to mend it. I was like, but then, some things started happening again. So I withdrew again. But I was at a place where it's like, I don't hate him, but I'm not calling him, we're not getting to, we're just really not a part of each other's lives like that. But then I got convicted one morning or one day. I was taking one of my walks on Stone Mountain. And as God so lovingly and gently does sometimes, comes in with this voice, it's like so strong. And I'm walking up the mountain, minding my own business. And he's like, call your father. And I'm like, what? It's like, call your father. And I was like, but for what? Like, we don't really have anything to talk about. So I said, well, I guess it's time to deal with it. Because as I started looking at, the things that were on my plate in my life, relationship, parenting, and things like that, the relationship with my father was on the back burner. I was like, this is not a priority. But when I heard that voice, it was like, okay, it's time to do it. And one of the things that we talked about was reconciliation. I didn't think I had to reconcile. And I think I told you, Ms. Lily, the story about when I was taking this class at this church, and they were teaching us about the Trinity and things like that. And they brung up reconciliation. And it was like, he said, yeah, God wants reconciliation. And I did not agree with that at all. I was like, I don't think we need to reconcile. But when you get that conviction, you can't even deny it. So I called him, and so the thing that I thought I wasn't ready to deal with, like you said, when you don't want to deal with it because you don't know how it's going to turn out. So if I call, I'm just going to hear the same excuses, whatever. But the way God aligned everything was like, when I went and had the conversation, there was an article that I had read about the father and daughter relationship. I sent it to him. He responded and he said, I'm open to have, a conversation. And actually, he had just started therapy. So now it was a little bit more opening for the conversation to happen. And it's still not perfect, but it was less excuses. And I just got to say, I got to say what I want to say. And I said, and none of this is to send you in a tailspin or trying to get you to feel bad about yourself. I'm just saying, this is what this caused in my life. And so it just opened that door for a conversation to happen. Now, it kept changing because Father's Day was like the parental holidays are challenging for me. So Father's Day would come up and I would find it very awkward to tell him Happy Father's Day because he's just never really like been there in that position. And I was like, I don't feel like it just was awkward everything. And then I just want the day to be over. But I don't know, I think not this year, but last year, because of the conditioning of my heart is changing and healing. I realized that day, I said, tell him Happy Father's Day. Why? Because it's not costing you nothing.
Not one thing. Yeah.
It
That's
don't
good.
cost you nothing to tell that man Happy Father's Day, because I'm not angry anymore, and it could make his day.
Mm.
That's like it's not costing you anything to just say like whether like all the thoughts of, but he don't deserve that, he ain't do it, you know, shut up.
Thoughts, shut up. Yeah.
I'm just like, forget it. Whatever it is, just tell him Happy Father's Day. Be obedient and tell him Happy Father's Day. And I did. And, you know, because if we look at a stranger and you say, if you walk around and you say, oh, I love to make people smile. Anything I could do today to make somebody's day better, I would do that. You know, why wouldn't you do that to somebody you know? You know? So if I could do that for a stranger, why wouldn't I do that? You know?
Right.
And so I did. And I felt good because I just realized. So I remember on Facebook one time I was just going on this rant about forgiveness. And I wrote, the condition of our hearts matter to God. Our hearts are of significant value in God's economy. I said, a love waxed cold can't love God fully, no matter how much you shout. So the condition, if you pay attention to the condition of your heart, it matters. And
you wrote that or somebody else wrote that?
I wrote it.
That's what I thought.
Of course, I got the God's economy from Alicia, but
no. That was actually good. You should read it again.
The condition of our hearts matter to God. Our hearts are of significant value in God's economy.
That heart. Yeah. I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good.
A love waxed cold cannot love God fully, no matter how much you shout. And so I often say a broken heart is a broken heart. It's broken. And it can't just magically heal for who you decide you want to love. You got to heal the whole heart.
Girl.
Ooh, say it again.
Girl.
Say it again.
Yeah, you gotta heal the whole heart. We think we can select. We think we could have a broken heart or a wax cold heart or a bitter heart, and now decide I'm gonna go get married. I'm gonna go be in a relationship. I'm gonna love these people, but you haven't healed the heart.
That heart. I'm gonna do like Eddie Murphy. Hercules. I'm gonna be quiet.
That heart trying to deal with people from a decapitated heart. A heart that's not whole, a heart that's not truly mended, a heart that is not truly healed. But we think he can.
Right. So there's so many other things tied, and Alicia teaches there's so many other things tied to the forgiveness. So you want to be successful in these relationships and all these other things, but it's tied to truly forgiving. Yes. And doing it on a deeper level. You know, yeah. And I don't know if you have any commentary after that, but I was just going to go into this other lesson. So one of my spiritual leaders used to use this quote, and I believe he may have gotten it from John Maxwell, but he said, a leader changes before he has to. And by that, he meant meaning you may be forced to change due to a circumstance, but a true leader changes before he has to. So a couple of years ago, I took it and I flipped it to the forgiveness. And I said, you forgive before you know you'll need to. True forgiveness, forgive before you know you need to. And where that became prevalent in my life is that even the situation with my father is saying, because we think we have a reason to not forgive or a reason to stay resentful about something. But I'm like, what if a situation comes up and you need to talk to your father? And at that moment, you can't have the conversation because you still dealing with all the little other stuff, you know? And so now we're at a point where, you know, my grandparents have gotten older, you know, my grandmother's dealing with dementia, and my grandfather is going through his thing. So it's a lot going on. And this is a time when we all need to be able to come together and talk about things, but there are other little bickerings going on. And so I'm like, if we had done this work prior, we could be able to handle all of these things without all of those things from the past floating around in the middle. And so I'm not involved in a major way, but now, you know, even just to call, be able to say, hey, what's going on? Or is there anything I can do? You know, I can call my father and talk to him because you need to. So that was just a big lesson. It's just like, forgive before you know you need to, because a time is going to come and you're going to need to be able to deal with people, and you don't have time to be trying to clean up all that stuff
Got no
in the midst.
time.
Right.
Got no time.
Especially if it's a process. You ain't got time for all
Ooh. I'm not going to say anything, but Nikki, and Tiffany, we not paying for no phones. Okay? We ain't paying for no
We
phone.
not. I hope you got insurance.
Right. But I remember, I guess it's been 2 years now, when your dad came on, something Renee was having.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Mm-hmm.
And he spoke so well. You wouldn't have ever known that anything, you know, he went through the things he went. He was speaking so well, and I was like, wow. And that's why I was like, Nikki, can you bring your dad on? But I knew that y'all had gone through a process,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that healing had begun to take place. And that's why I keep saying, can you bring your daughter on, or can you bring your daddy on? Somebody that because I
Can
think that
testify to this stuff that I'm saying.
well, it's so powerful. You are a powerful woman of God, and you take things lightly. Oh, I came up with this little quote, and oh, I was thinking about this, you know. And she come up with the quote, and we're like, really, Nikki, really? And it's just like it's her nature, it's a part of her. But I thank you so much. I don't know if there's something you want to say. I mean, we can carry this on for hours, but is there anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I don't want to go over too much far all the time, but thank you for having me. The time went by so quickly. No, nothing. Well, let's see. I have on my paper that we stall our own visions and dreams due to the forgiveness. There's a whole nother lesson that I had learned, which is about remembering to forget. And we talked about the thoughts and the memories, but we can maybe continue that at another time. But it leads into the work that I do. So even in the self-discovery and the human design, you know, sometimes things come up. And so you may be aware that I start, you know, when I got certified for my human design training, they incorporate EFT tapping, which is emotional freedom technique, where you tap on meridian points to relieve yourself of tension and stress and all of that stuff. And that really plays a role into this, because sometimes the things that we remember and we hold prevents us from moving forward. So if you say you forgive, but then every time you're triggered by a familiar scenario or something, and then that thought comes back and grabs you right back in that web again. So learning how to physically, the physical part, is to relieve yourself and give yourself a bodily wise and mentally wise, a new template for a new story to take place. So you're not just continuing to rehash the same old thing. So I was able to shorten that window of the thoughts in my mind about why my father didn't deserve to be told Happy Father's Day, but because of doing this work and even the tapping and all that stuff, is quickly get it out of your head, because you're telling yourself a new story. How do you make Father's Day mean something different? You don't have to keep remembering all the old reasons why it made you sad. So just learning how to do things that help you to create new thoughts.
Amazing. All these different conversations that could be pulled out of everything you said. So many. And that heart, I wanted to go into it, but we don't have time. That is a soft spot with me. That heart and the Father.
He cares about our hearts. He does.
He's a heart God. If people can ever understand that.
I think it's one of the most important pieces. I'm like, if this is what it's all about, we make it, spirituality and religion, we make it about a lot of other things. But if we just focus in on that one point that is truly about the conditioning, the condition of your heart is what he has set out to mend and what he has set out to make whole. And that there's nothing outside of us or in this world that should trump that. Nothing else is worth holding on to if we love God the way we say we love him.
And I think we're going to end on that note. There will be a part 2, y'all. There will be a part 2.
Yes.
Wanda, I don't know if you have something you want to say, but
just out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth, do the hard work. You have to do the hard work. And doing the hard work deals with that unforgiveness. And I think the part I love about the unforgiveness, Nikki, what you talked about, is the forgiving part. That's my pressure point. That's my point of love right there, is the forgetting, so that we can truly forgive. Do the hard work, everybody. Do the hard work.
Mm-hmm. So we have been in surgery today. I'm still laying on the couch, on the bed, trying to recover. But this thing is deep, 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 deep. And I was like, I'm going to take off. I'm just not going to do anything in December. But I have to be here. I have to be here. We're going to close out December with forgiveness. And we're going into something else in January. But we're going to close out strong and powerful. And I pray that you're not just coming on here to saying it's good and not doing the work. I pray that something is said that makes you want to change the way you think, the way you act, and the way you respond to things. We're going to end on a happy note because it is a beautiful day. Nikki, the sun is shining on you. You're beautiful, as always. Thank you so much for being here, Wanda. You're my girl. I appreciate you being here whenever you can. I don't have a rope around your neck, so if you can't be here, I get it. But when you're not here, you're missed. Just like my other co-hosts.
Yes, we miss her.
When they're not here, they're missed. So thank you so much. We will get together and get another date that you could come on and come finish sharing, and
Mm.
may heaven continue to smile on you.
Yeah.
I know that's a religious
No,
saying,
but
but
it is. You're glowing. You are so beautiful.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
literally. It is all over your face. Beautiful by His design. You are beautiful, and it is so apparent that you have done the work. So thank you, Mrs.
thank
mhm.
you so much.
Keep being you. Look, my head gonna be like one of y'all's one day. I'm gonna be banging like one of y'all one day because y'all heads is right. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. As I said before, this is Leslie's Lessons Learned. We have learned a lot today. Please hit that like sign, that share sign, and subscribe. We would love to hear from you. And hit me up. You got something you want to say? Hit me up. Until we meet again. This week we have the air fry king coming on. My nephew, he's going to come on and he's doing the week and he's going to share some tips with us on how to use the air fryer and something good that we can, you know, eat healthy. So we on this healthy kick somewhere along the line. But to this, that's what we'll have. I think he's Thursday. He comes on. I cannot remember who's Sunday, but we'll be back here, and I hope you'll join us. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Let me give some hot shout outs. I want to shout out the UK, London, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Maryland, wherever you're listening from. I give you a shout out today. And I thank you so much for being here. Love you. And until we meet again, have an amazing week.